Hello and welcome to Redeeming Thunder. This word is a difficult word to give due to it being a prodigal spouse. For those of you who are waiting for your prodigal spouse to return to you and or new revelations, if he does not return to you, this word is for you. This word was given to me on 9/18/2026. This is chapter 60, part 2 of REVAMP Productions. And although this word was given to me in September, it's manifesting into on earth as it is in heaven in the month of March. Okay, March and April. So during this time, you may have, and or in the past, you have been interacting with a prodigal spouse in the home or outside of the home. And you may have been experiencing hardship. Okay? And you receive the prophetic word that all hindering spirit will be removed. Okay? And that was the prophetic word of chapter 56, part 3. And so, due to your prayers, the Most High heard your prayers and He removed the hindrance. Okay? And just like everyone has free will, even when in the topic of salvation, when one makes that salvation prayer to your Savior, to give Him, to be in your heart, living in your heart, to be your Savior, okay? It's ultimately up to the individual to progress in that relationship with the divine, and or to ignore it and to live nonchalantly and to just abandon ship, right? No one can force you to invest in the relationship. Okay, same thing. So the Most High heard your prayers, those standing for that repair in marriage. Okay? And it's up to the prodigal individual to truly turn away from their wicked ways, to truly be sincere. Okay? Now that there's no hindering spirit, okay, involved in that mix. Or what one does not want to happen but could happen is the prodigal spouse decides that reverting back to their old habits is still their go-to favorite. Okay? And so there's been some, what seems like hiccups in the road. There's been some hardship in the road. And you're trying to wonder, what is happening here? Okay? Why? Why is this happening? Because you were standing for that relationship. But one has to also come into an understanding that if you're a chosen one, there is a divine agenda, and the Most High, Yahuwah, is expecting a certain temperament for that agenda. He's expecting certain righteousness. He's expecting a certain person that will follow his commandments, that will serve him wholeheartedly. Okay? And if he doesn't see that on his timeline, I'm talking about the divine Heavenly Father's timeline, not yours. Okay? If he does not see it happening on a punctual manner, because he's already extended life, he's already extended chances to the individual. He's already heard your prayers, and he has allowed for the case, thank you, Ruach hakodesh, for this analogy, for the story of Absalom. If you remember, David had a son and named Absalom, and really some villager wanted him to extend mercy towards her son who did a crime. And then she convinced King David, but then came back with a rebuttal stating, thank you so much for, forgiving my son, but why don't you forgive yours? And his son, I think, what the story goes, is had killed one of his other sons. So then, of course, King David still loves his son, but he had casted him out of the kingdom palace, right? And he had to live a ways in the countryside that was not divinely protected. Okay, so that comment had him cave and then accept his son to come back. And then what happened is, because he wanted to have mercy, because he prayed to the Heavenly Father, and he decided that he could accept him back. Not with the same level of ruling, not with the same level of royalty, but living out in the outskirts in his own home, and be almost like a prisoner in his own home. So was not able to mingle with others, okay? But what caused this unfortunate decision was where Absalom's heart was at. He was not grateful for this additional opportunity to enter into the grace and mercy and favor of the king. Okay? He did not use the mercy and grace with wisdom. He instead was conspiring against his own father, the very person who saved him out of that rut of a life, and was going into the village and then giving his wisdom, trying to be the savior, and trying to turn the opinions of the people, and trying to actually take the kingdom from underneath his, right, slipping, just pulling the rug from his father, King David. Okay? To the point where then suddenly it became a situation where King David had to escape. He had to leave his palace for safety of his own life. He had to run, go on the run. And somehow Absalom obtained the kingdom for a while because there were traitors in the mix. King David's traitors that contributed to all the mishap. And after a while, then he was able to retrieve his kingdom. But there was quite a bit of feeling that he's drowning. He's underwater drowning. Okay? So it's going to feel that way. And you're like, what are you talking about? We're talking about, I'm waiting for my prodigal spouse to return. And you're telling me a story that it sounds like you're painting the picture that the prodigal spouse could be like an Absalom that abused his chance. And I'm telling you, this is a difficult prophetic word to give. Okay? And I need to continue to explain because the Most High is doing something in this hour. And He is actually looking out for you. Okay? And so the moral of the story for King David and Absalom is stating sometimes when the Most High is telling you initially this person has to go, or these certain people are going to perish, or you need to move on. And sometimes the Most High tells you even, don't go against me and don't pray against this prophetic word. Okay? Because with prayer, you can basically go to court in the heavenly courts for the individual. Okay, I'm not just talking about a prodigal spouse situation. It could be prodigal children. It could be your own situation. Okay? And one could just be begging and praying and fasting and moving mountains, moving the heavenlies. And the inevitable will still happen because it has a lot to do with the heart of the individual. Okay? One can receive a new heart, just like a new heart transplant in real life. One can receive, a new kidney. But it's what are you going to do with, how are you going to treat your body? How are you going to live your life after receiving these serious operations? Because these operations of the new heart is literally occurring in the prodigals. Supernaturally. Like they literally needed a new heart because it was so corroded. Their original one was. And once they have their new heart, are they going to revert back to who they used to be? Quite treacherous and quite wicked and heartless. Are they going to be grateful and humbled and grateful for the opportunity to enjoy you as their family? That you have received them with gladness. You have received them with hope. You have received them with love. Are they going to treat you well? Or are they going to treat you the same like there was before? Because Most High is not going to accept that person to stay in your life if they're going to treat you the same that it was before. He's looking out for your best interest. And you're like, well, why doesn't he look out for their best interest and just force them to change? First of all, because he gives free will. Second of all, because he doesn't call everybody his sheep. Okay? And you're evolving into a lion, not a sheep. So you speak forth your cause, right? And a lion does not accept, is not weak and naive is not a weak or naive like a sheep, like a lamb. They got some leadership roles. The lion has leadership roles. It has leadership skills. They're not naive. It's going to take a lion into the end times to make it into the end times. And you can't go at it in life, even with a prodigal situation, as a lamb. Okay? That personality is kind of what encouraged them. Sadly, it shouldn't have. They should have had mercy and grace and favor and honor, right? But certain people who have a lot of pride, they see someone that is, could be like a weaker vessel, right? But they see them, they try to take dominion with an authoritative type of leadership rather than a transactional type of leadership. Transactional will be give and take. Transformational is someone that completely changes their methods for the better, for the good of all. An authoritative would be a dictatorship and a spirit of Pharaoh, a spirit of Haman situation, where their way or the highway. It's also narcissistic. It also could be sociopath. And you're going to ask me, what are you saying here? You're saying that the prodigal spouse is like a sociopath? Are you saying like the prodigal spouse is like a narcissist? Yes, I am. And it was time for everyone to wake up. Okay? And so the Most High has been providing this prophetic word so that you can understand what's going on. That's why you need to hear the prophetic word. All right, so now the prodigal spouse does have love for you. And he is one individual amongst many who are coming for you. Okay? They're coming back. That prophetic word is clear. But what the prophetic word entails is not everybody who comes for you is going to stay. Some stay for a season, some stay for a reason, and some stay for a lifetime. Okay? Okay, so in the sub-days on 9/17, a day before I receive these dreams, so 9/17/2025, I hear, in this case, to love you. And I also hear in the sub-days, apart from paying the tickets. I also hear in the sub-days, keep your legs in the water. I also hear in the sub-days, I would like to be here like overnight. And I also hear in the sub-days, I summon thee to call upon thy spouse. So, especially the one that's talking about keep your legs in the water, for those of you who have been dealing with a hardship with your prodigal spouse, in the home or outside of the home, it kind of feels like maybe there's a bit of a flood occurring where it's looking like you're getting toppled with problems with the individual, or there's problems occurring and you're looking to that individual for some assistance because you're anticipating that they have changed and they are going to chime in and be a true partner, and you know you're not going to have to handle hardship by yourself because you're anticipating that they're coming for you. So it's supposed to work, and it's supposed to be, you know, wonderful moments of team effort and loving kindness so that you can get into your feminine role, and they're suddenly going to be in their masculine. Okay? But the reason why it feels like it's your feet are in the water and the water is rising up, okay? That's an analogy there, is because it still feels like you're drowning when they're involved in any situation that you need resolution. And the Most High is saying, keep your legs in the water. There's a point to that. There's a point to still holding on for a little while longer. Okay? And then he says, I summon you to call upon thy spouse, and you instantly think, I need to call upon my prodigal spouse. For many of you, some of you are possibly going to be receiving your prodigal spouse, and they're truly returning to you with true heart and care. Okay? But some of you are not. And so the Most High has been working in the background for an ordained spouse for you. So when he's saying call upon that spouse, you need to proclaim out loud and say out loud, my ordained spouse, come for me now. I am ready to receive you on earth as it is in heaven. Okay? So give me some star emojis if you are coming into an agreement with that. Because when people's legs are in the water, it has a lot to do with being delivered. Okay? Why? Because the Most High is not going to leave your legs in the water feeling like you're going to get suffocated with drowning in water. Because if you are truly his child, he's going to rescue you. He's going to send rescue. Okay? So now let's dive into a prophetic word given to me, Sakako Sima, and that stands for to bow down. So in this hour, you need to take time out of your day to be in reverence and bow down to the Most High in prayer and in stillness. Why? Because he's going to anoint you for what's to come. You're going to need to be anointed to endure what's to come. You can't do this with your regular strength, regular human strength. Why? Because didn't we talk about that it's hardship? Didn't we talk about that it's difficult times? And yes, we did. Okay. Now, Kol means here thus far. Sima means treasure, precious, delight, and gladness is coming. So, he wants you to bow down in reverence because he's going to anoint you, because he's going to give you a baraka of treasure, and he's going to anoint you with joy and gladness. Because you're going to need that supernaturally, because it's going to be all difficult hardship. It has been. You need to be revitalized, energized, because anybody could seep into deep depression. And that's another thing that I need to talk to you about. Does your mood fluctuate on how the individual treats you? Are you in a very low, unhappy, and nothing else matters? If that person is not showing affection and or attention and or communication and or has treated you poorly, do you let that situation take your entire day and your entire week and your entire month and take you out completely? Or are you only sad for a little while? What would be low unhappy category, and then you're able to find joy in other matters in your life. Why? Because part of about being with a narcissist is not healthy. Okay? And you think YAHUAH can heal anybody. They can heal a sociopath, he can heal narcissist. Yes, and he can if that person is willing. Is your individual that you've been praying for willing? That's the fact of the matter. And you're like, well, sometimes it looks like they're willing and sometimes it looks like they're not. Yes, but the Most High is looking out for your best interest, and he needs you to have consistency. And if every other day or every day it's hardship, okay, it's mistreatment, it's an attitude, it's outburst of anger, it's irate, okay? And then when you try to solve and simmer the situation down and solve it with the individual, it could reflect as gaslighting you, okay? And or stonewalling, okay? It could be scapegoat, blaming someone else for for whatever fault. And there's a lack of accountability. Or if you bring it up, and or if you take care of yourself, mental health. So in other words, you don't grovel and you're just living in your joy and gladness regardless, and then you're taking care of yourself, doing a lot of self-care, that person is now resenting and or punishing you with withdrawing affection, communication, and or completely abandoning you when you need help with something else. So acting incredibly abusive. These are abusive traits, immature. And it's the same cycle. Okay? Or it could be a situation where they're dismissive, avoidant. So they dismiss, they disregard what's important to you, what you need. And whenever you try to bring up something and try to resolve things, they just give you false promises, or they avoid the conversation altogether with zero eye contact. You could see their body language if they're pointing their body towards you or away from you when you're talking to them. Okay? The Most High doesn't want you to be a babysitter in a relationship. He wants you to feel fulfilled. And these are many characteristics of why relationships fail. Okay? And you probably could have contributed being a contentious wife, and or even when you are separated, you're still being type of a woman who likes to rebuttal and argue and justify and explain where he went wrong. And I know this due to the dreams I received. Okay? And now is the time to truly, mature, and for you to develop new skills. that has a lot to do with a new mindset. Okay? Because many of you have taken on the burden of being the man of the house and doing your role because the other person checked out. Okay? And one could have dove into that because you wanted to change them with your love. And you thought, if you give them more and you make yourself smaller and you ignore your needs and you don't even mention your needs because they're not listening anyway, right? It's been clear. Or they downplay, or they downsize your feelings. You say, for example, you want to go on a date. You feel, like you could possibly, maybe if you work on going on date nights, this is a situation when you're dealing with a narcissist or a sociopath, date nights are not going to fix it. When you're working with someone that is dismissive, avoidant, going on more dates is not going to fix the man or the woman who is narcissistic and or dismissive, avoidant. And you're like, well, how did I get into this mix? You're going to have to forgive yourself. That's part of the new mindset. You forgive yourself for getting into a relationship that is like that. That's one of the steps. Because first of all, you didn't know any better. Second of all, you have a humongous heart and you're quite forgiving. And that's why people stay longer and longer and pray and fast for the individual, right? Because you have a huge heart, which we need those people in this land. Okay. The other reason is your childhood. Has a lot to do with your upbringing. If you were with parents, if you grew up with parents or other guardians who were dismissive and avoidant, like personality, who were narcissistic, you most definitely, if you didn't get a chance to do a lot of therapy, and a lot of you did not know that this was a thing. You just lived life and you thought you were fine. You had some trust issues, but for the most part, you just, you didn't have those traits, so you felt it was fine. Okay, but this is the thing. The reason why it's happening in your adulthood is because you accepted that treatment or had to. There was no other choice because you didn't have another. Many of you didn't have like another family to just, jump into. So you had to endure a lot of that type of behavior. It was very irritating. It was very disappointing. And it was very much hardship and disheartening. Because when you are living with adults as a child, as a teen, you're expecting a certain level of maturity. You're expecting to learn from them. But when you are more mature than those individuals, you decide not to be that way. Okay? But when one doesn't have a choice and has to endure it, those personalities force you to be small. There's repercussions if you aren't making yourself small, almost invisible. Many of you have dealt with being treated as you were invisible. You had to be for safety, but then you were. Okay? Because they treated you like you didn't matter. They only had enough of whatever attention they could give to your other siblings. And they couldn't have extended to you. They always expected you to have your life together. You always somehow managed to have your life together, not because you had it, because you didn't have another option. You had no one to lean on. So you had to manage all of these huge problems by yourself, which caused you to be very independent. Okay? You scanned the room before you began to express who you are, and you saw there was no room for you, so that you would stuff it and conceal. And because the many times that you did reach out, they did the gaslighting, they did the stonewalling, they did the heartless sociopath where they don't have empathy or compassion. Okay? They did dismiss you. They said it was dumb to think that way or feel that way. They did not give you healthy space, safe space to be yourself and to be vulnerable. So you couldn't be vulnerable. And in this journey, I'm sharing of how you need to be vulnerable. And you need to be feminine in order to obtain your ordained spouse promise. It's like the complete opposite. That's why it's taking so many chapters to heal and to understand where you need to heal. That's why you need to watch all the chapters. That's why you need to send to those who are desperately in need of understanding how to evolve and to obtain this promise. It helps very much when you share the channel, because it allows the algorithm to disperse itself correctly to the right person that needs to hear it. And if this found you on a whim, it was not a whim. It was to rescue you. Okay? So let's dive in. Now the Most High is saying to be sapa, to be watchful, to be on guard. And during this time, there's going to be a wonderful surprise, a wonderful breakthrough for you. Okay? So then the Most High says, Saka, I already said that, Sakako Sima, again, to bow down in reverence, anointing you, here thus far, treasure, value, joy, happiness, celebration. Okay? You are birthing your kingdom marriage. Then on 9/19/2025, I hear you need to go to court. And then the next phrase that the Most High says, fight for your marriage. The phrase fight for your marriage means to proactively choose and commit to working on the relationship by not giving up during difficult times, actively seeking solutions, improving communication, and fostering a positive environment for growth rather than fighting against each other. It involves focusing on oneself, taking responsibility for one's actions, forgiving past hurts, and sometimes seeking professional help, like counseling, to overcome obstacles. Okay, so now Abba says to love him, succumb, your love will save him. Now, this is when the dreams come into play. And of course, one could be confused on, you're saying marriage, you're saying go to court and this and that. You know, it's talking about the kingdom marriage. Okay? Because just like you know that this is coming, the enemy knows that this is coming. You go to court for your marriage in the heavenly courtroom. Because for some of you, your prodigal spouse could be returning to you. But for some of you, that's not the prophetic word. And it's actually your kingdom spouse is coming for you. I mean, this shouldn't sound so ironic out in the real world, right? This is reflecting the real world, but out in the real world, how many people, how many guys try to hit on you and try to entice you and try to take you out and try to ask you out and are attracted to you? It could be several. But just because you have options doesn't mean you give opportunity to every single one. Okay? There's counterfeits out there. So many could be coming for you, just like the prophetic word was stating. Many could be interested in you. But you're going to want to give your heart to the one who actually is going to take care of that heart properly. Okay? So, now the second dream here. On 10/3/2025. So I saw a woman at an ancestor's house, and she was finally expressing the hardship she was dealing with some romantic partner that she was with. I could tell by what she was saying that's what she was explaining, okay? And of all the poor treatment and all of the the poor treatment could include insults and or cursing, and or it could also be abandoning, neglecting, and punishing with abandonment and neglect. Okay? It could also be, doesn't always have to be physical beatings or anything like that. All right. So in the dream, the police were called, and the police guy came with some other lady who was hugging him to the side, like a side hug. So now they're in the hallway, everybody, and this woman is beginning to cry. And this man who was being hugged by this other lady saw this lady that I'm explaining about cry. And he stopped hugging that lady, or standing there and letting that other lady hug him. And he stood by the victim, the lady that I'm talking about. And she began to lean on his chest and cry, explaining that she's trying to escape this relationship, but she's worried that he will retaliate if she leaves in a vicious manner that is violent, or it's just irrational, okay, with revenge or something like that. And so now, because of that policeman there, and providing some comfort and some security and stability, she begins to feel better, because you could tell, because her posture, she's standing a little straighter, and she's not crying, you know. Her face doesn't look so distraught. Okay, so that's how I know. And then she walks out of the house because she is getting ready to leave. So she needs to bring her car. For some reason, the car was parked somewhere else and not right at the driveway of that house. So she walks out, and she walks right across the street, 2 homes down, and she sees the car parked. So obviously I see it too, because I'm standing there to the side, right? So she sees the car parked against a garage. And there's a packet of orange and red streamer in the car. So I see this woman walk right up to the vehicle, and she sees the car, so she's almost there. I mean, she's at the car, excuse me. But she sees someone who's walking towards her around the corner from the block. Okay? So she turns her back from the vehicle, and she looks at that person that's walking towards her. And he is the individual that she was trying to escape. And he began to throw these bombs, or these fireworks. Okay? And he's throwing them to the house. So I don't know if he must have a good arm or something, but he's throwing the firework as he lights it, and it lands inside the garage, the empty garage that's at the house with the lights are on. And she's worried now because her children are in the house. I mean, the policeman's in the house. Okay, there's family members in the house. And she's just worried that her children are going to get hurt by her trying to separate from him. Okay? So he keeps throwing them. One of those fireworks landed on her head as he threw it, right? And she just grabbed it before it exploded, and then she threw it back. And then he kept throwing them in the garage, and then he also threw another one at her head. It landed right on the top of her head. And then she grabbed it and threw it back. Okay. And then, oh, excuse me, the one on her heads were not lit. Okay. Then she turned around to go to her car, because she's like, forget this mess. Forget this chaotic back and forth, She's just going to leave and get the children in the car and just leave. But when she looked back, the car was gone. And all that was left was floating like the streamers were attached to the garage, and they were just flowing in the wind. So then now she's like, great, I don't have a car now. And she looked back at her ancestor's home, which is, when you have a dream about ancestor's home, has a lot to do with foundations. Okay? And she was going to go get her children. And she went to go tell the police guy that her car is now missing. And now we got to leave very soon, because now the house is on fire. And I woke up. Because due to the fireworks exploding in the garage. Okay? Okay, so that dream was just so... I woke up and I was kind of stressed. And I felt like, what does this mean? This has a lot of symbolism in the dream. Okay? There's something that has to happen within you in order for you to be delivered from that prodigal spouse that doesn't return. Why? Because that prodigal spouse that doesn't return is now called a counterfeit. And there's a behavior. Did you recall when he was throwing fireworks? So it was havoc. He was creating havoc. He was sabotaging his opportunities. Okay, in fact, that's the title of this prophetic word. He was self-sabotaging, and then in order to hurt you, he was hurting your loved ones or threatening to hurt your loved ones or has been. Okay? And some of you are like, but he still loves because this and that, but you're just trying to convince yourself, though. You're trying to convince yourself of a narrative that's not actually real because you have a lot of hope. And I'm trying to tell you that the individual made a choice to behave that way. But that's not where it ends. You, as the woman in the dream, okay, also began to throw these fireworks. You're just like, what do you want me to do? Just take it? Just leave it on my head and let it explode on me? Or those weren't lit though, right? But one could be contentious and retaliate back with words and with accusations and with arguing and correcting his behavior and explaining where he's wrong and being the therapist, becoming the mother role because he's acting like a man-child. Do you see what I mean? You could fall into that category and not stay in your feminine role, which was the damsel in distress, the victim, right? The damsel in distress, the one that was vulnerable in explaining to the policeman what was going on, explaining to the family member what was going on, right? Your reaction shifted to, I need to fight back. I need to argue back to justify. And maybe if I justify just enough, he'll get it. And a lot of women do this because they're trying to train the man. They're trying to train him. And when she was throwing them back, she wasn't necessarily throwing them on his head. She was throwing them and they were falling amongst the side of him. Not to truly hurt him, but like just to just prompt him. To be like, I can do the same thing you do. You know? But she had some care, so she didn't like try to blow up his head, right, with the fireworks. So, but that would be a situation of like bombs and like sabotaging. So one is self-sabotaging, the other one is sabotaging. And you're like, what do I do then? What do I do when he behaves that way? Okay. And another detail though, I want to get to that, but another detail was when she walked towards to get into the car was there. But when she turned her back and she started retaliating with lashing back with her words, with her insults, with her rebuttals and over explanation with sending videos of how to behave as a man. Okay? Relationship videos. Being his counselor, being his therapist, being his mommy personality instead of staying in your feminine role. When she did all of that, her vehicle went missing. Okay? So that the vehicle is the journey of your life. It was gone. The angels cannot come and assist you in this rescue when you are also at fault. I'm going to say that again. Your ministry is attached to your vehicle. Okay? Your livelihood is attached to your vehicle. You lose your righteousness and the ministry and the journey of your life that takes you to that rescue when you come out of righteousness and go into self-righteousness. And then these miracles can only happen if you stay pure with faith and prayer, okay? And staying as a, Proverbs 31 wife categories, which means one of the verses says, and she laughs at the days to come. And you're like, but when though? Only when it's good? Only when there's good things happen? No, it means all the time. Even when there is a hectic, you're not supposed to allow anyone to pull you out of your center and your peace. And a lot of people, a lot of women, they want the man to change so desperately that they start barking orders and then giving all kinds of advice, pretty much giving him all the keys and planning all the dates and holding his hand and giving the flowers. Okay, I just recalled something. Thank you, Ruach hakodesh, for helping me think. On Facebook, there's these funny little relationship videos that at first I thought was funny, but now it's actually not. Okay. It says how to train your boyfriend or how to teach him how to treat you. And so he's sitting in the car already, okay? It looks kind of crazy, but just hear me out. She gets in, she has roses. She takes off the rose petals and she first throws the bouquet at him and he's like, whoa. Okay. Then she grabs a few of the roses. She yanks them really quickly, then shoves them on the little, the little mirror for the top mirror cover thing. Okay. Then she has chocolates in a gift bag. And then she just shoves it at him. And then she sits down. And then all of a sudden, she turns to him and she's a different personality. She's so sweet and surprised. She's acting surprised. Oh my, you for me? And then she grabs the roses, the bouquet of roses, and she starts smelling the sugar. This is so beautiful. Oh my gosh, I feel so special. And then she's like, pulls down the little flap, and all of these rose petals come flying everywhere. She's like, gasping with delight, and she is so astounded by this beautiful gesture of love. And then she's like, and you got me chocolates? And she just opens it, the wrapper, and she just starts eating. And she's like, she's like, here, you have some, how did you know this was my favorite? And he's just like literally shocked and like thinks she's crazy. Okay. But in a way, you kind of been doing that at home, or he's not in the home, but you're texting him, when you go on dates with your prodigal spouse, you've been trying to explain and explain. All of the dates are not romantic because they're just explaining on what you need, and you're bringing the book and you're reading the chapters, and you're so desperate for him to measure up to the level that you need, to know you, to truly know you, to go back to how it was, or to be treated a certain way. And he's like, okay. And he's almost shocked, and he's almost scaring him because, you're doing some threats too that you're going to leave him if he doesn't change. And he's just like, okay, I will. And everything is just so non-organic. And it's like, it's kind of pathetic, actually. It's pathetic that you have to beg someone to that level. It's pathetic that he's just so clueless on what to do. And you're saying, I'm talking about you might have came out of your feminine role because he was getting in his, I'm talking about back in the day when it started corrupting. The relationship started getting in corruption. Okay? You might have gotten out of your feminine role because he started getting in a feminine role and needed to be pampered. And you women, you can't, okay, if those that have children, okay, you cannot love your man, the same way that you pamper your children. Why? Because they will revert back to being a child in their, they will either be in their wounded child, and or they will revert into a feminine role. And you're like, but I love him. I want to pamper him. I want to give him gifts. I want to soothe him. Is he sick? I want to make him soup. I want to serve him. I am trying to be Proverbs 31 wife. I know. But you're doing it wrong. How do I know this? Because there's love coaches. Because there's literal men that are explaining it and saying, don't do that to us, please. I'm begging you. Because by experience, I'm telling you, that method doesn't work. It will not train him and prep him to be the man that you need. Why? Because all of that, you are being the chaser. And he's supposed to chase you. You're like, but what if he's not chasing it? I keep waiting for him to chase me, and he's still not doing it. Exactly. That's because you prayed for that change. YAHUAH, the Most High, gave an extension. And what this prophetic word is saying is he abused the opportunity. And he did not take the call in the proper way. He's taking it with you still being small. You still staying quiet. When I mean small, you don't say what you need because you feel like he's not going to perform and do it. You are aches and pains, and you continue to push forth, and you continue to do it all. Clean the entire house. Maybe that will make him happy if you have the house in perfection. Maybe that will make him happy if all the children are pristine. Nobody's running around in the house. Nobody's communicate or being loud, and they're all well behaved all the time, 1,000%. And you made all the meals, every single meal for the rest of your lives. And you don't even ask for a date because, you're like, I just won't. I just won't because I don't want to burden him with thinking of ideas. I'm the idea person. I'm the creative person, so I'm just going to take on that role. I'm going to plan all the vacations because that's just who I am. I just like to organize. And if I wait for him to do it, it will never ever happen. I'll pay all the bills and all the transactions because, you know, it's just not what he does. He doesn't know how to use the internet that good. He doesn't have tech skills. He's not, you know, one for communication and talking to businesses to set up accounts. So I'm just going to take that too. I'm just going to be the one to pamper him with affection because I'm a really loving person. And maybe if I show him what I love by loving him that way, he'll be that for me. But you waited and waited and it didn't happen, right? He didn't get the memo. And what I'm trying to say is they don't get the memo that way. Once a woman begins to do the chasing and gets in her masculine role, because the masculine role is serving, and doing everything, all the yard work, all of the garbage duty, all of the dishes, all of the laundry, all of the housework duties, and also bringing home the bacon, and then also, and you're just letting that man come in to your home, and he just wants to be the king of the palace and sit on his bottom and be served his drinks and never of service. There's certain men that think this way, okay? That's how life's supposed to be. They're stuck in the 1940s. And they think this is a woman's chore. This is women. But what about all of what they're supposed to do? Because did you know that you need to get into your feminine receiving era in order for this to work? And there's a certain way of asking for things. So what you're supposed to do is ask, say your need, say your vulnerability, and then pause. And let that individual show up. But what happened was the individual, the woman, did not let him show up. And these are the situations for those that are going to change. They didn't show up. They didn't let them show up. Because you just got too impatient and eager. And you are afraid that it wasn't going to turn back to you. So you went and you sent your five more videos. And bought another book. Did an audio session. And did all of the training. So that to guarantee that you get treated a certain way. And then also plan the date. You're being the man of the relationship. Did you know that all men are capable of healing? Not all men, actually. All people. It's not all people. It's people that are willing to do the inner work. But what I'm saying is he's an adult already and he can muster through and he can gather his own videos and he can learn without you holding his hand about it. Okay? Did you know that? That the real one that's coming for you already he's already on the mend. He's already been healing. He's already healed. If that. Okay? And the real person that's for you is not going to have you be the masculine role. Why? Because if he's a real man, he wants to make you happy. He's going to want to serve you. You are the one to be catered. You are the one that explains the burdens, and he is the one that's supposed to uplift the burdens. You're not supposed to be in total hardship and doing it all. Okay? And so the other dream. Oh, excuse. I want to explain further on what the meaning of having a police officer there. Okay. Where is that note here? Well, first I'm going to talk about the car that just was hijacked. A stolen car in a parking lot, Psalms 21:11. For they intended evil against thee. They imagined a mischievous device which they are not able to perform. Psalms 148. Grant not, O YAHUAH, the desires of the wicked, further not his wicked device, lest they exalt themselves. This woman was trying to leave the man in the dream, right? And with all his sabotage and tactics of fear, it caused her to rebuttal back. And in the spiritual realm, that does cause your breakthrough to not come. But in another sense, there's going to be individuals that are dealing with, literally need an escape plan. Okay? And there's going to be these comments that are going to make you feel like you're not going to be able to do this by yourself. And it's coming from the prodigal spouse that ends up being the counterfeit. Because he's coming back at you with a spirit of revenge. Okay?